The Canadian truckers aren't only protesting the Canadian government's cross-border mandate rule, they're also protesting the U.S.'s same mandate, which prohibits unvaccinated foreign truckers from crossing into the States. The convoy intends to stay in Ottawa until the Canadian government drops the mandate and until the Canadian government asks the U.S. to do the same. Now, what's interesting about this convoy is it's getting hardly any coverage at all inside of Canada or really anywhere. It's a near media blackout, which oddly seems to be the same thing happening in Europe and even here in the States in regards to all of the other protests. The convoy hasn't deterred the Canadian government yet. They have instead doubled down, with the transport and labor ministers releasing a joint statement saying the vaccines are, quote, the most effective tool to reduce the risk of COVID-19. In a separate interview, the transport minister said the government is not interested in alternatives like rapid testing for unvaccinated truckers. He stated, our plan is to defeat COVID and end the pandemic as quickly as possible. What we're doing right now is for the protection of truck drivers, but also for the protection of our supply chain and our economy. The best way to deal with COVID is through vaccination. There's been some interesting and even eyebrow-raising opposition to the convoy. There's the obvious and blatant media blackout. Some could say the reason the media isn't covering it is because it's small and fringe, but social media users are showing crowds gathered on the streets in nearly every town the truckers roll through and on many of the overpasses in the towns that the truckers pass. Also, the convoy has raised over $5 million through GoFundMe, and I'd say this is not small or fringe, definitely not as small or fringe as the government wants it to be, especially when you're talking about 35 to 50,000 trucks. The Canadian Trucking Alliance denounced the convoy, issuing a statement. And of course, there's those looking to demonize and discredit the protest by claiming those who are participating are alt-right or anti-vaxxers. Gerald Butts, the former principal secretary to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, called the group separatists. So now people on social are equating the group to terrorists, which seems to be where we're at these days. Anyone protesting anything at all, be it police brutality, masking kids, election outcomes, and vaccine mandates, is now a radical terrorist in some form. I do want to read part of this statement that was released from the convoy. Quote, the trucking convoy is not anti-vaccination. It is anti-government mandates. Many of us are vaccinated. We simply believe that every Canadian should be free to choose and face no discrimination or restrictions on their freedom due to their choice. The Canadian Trucking Alliance is a spineless private organization that does not speak for us. No more lockdowns, no forced vaccination. And yes, if it is forced, it is forced when you choose between a shot you don't want and your ability to feed yourself. Truckers will not block emergency vehicles at any point ever and will even assist any person in need at any point in the convoy or protest. When you can, please thank a trucker for everything they're doing and help them however you can.